Ulapitiya COVID-19 cluster tops 2,000. Former President Maithripala Sirisena claims he did not advise for the Malalgoda Commission report to be altered. Former Minister Partli Champika Ranawaka summoned by the Presidential Commission probing political victimization. Operations in search of Rishad Baduddin continue.
Baduddin අපේ ගෙදර නම් නැහැ. හැබැයි Baduddin නිතර යන්නේන ගෙවල් තියෙන බව නම් මේ රටේ අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව තේරුම් ගත යුතුයි.
රිෂාඩ් බදුද්දීන්ට එරෙහිව මේ ආණ්ඩුව ගත හැකි ගත යුතු සෑම පියවරක්ම ගත යුතුයි. ඒ නැත්තම් ඒක ජනවරම අමුමුවේ උල්ලංඝනය කිරීම.
New director appointed to the CID. Mangroves near the Kinya Divisional Secretariat being destroyed, an allegation from area residents.
Very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. Starting off with a look at your top story tonight. 121 COVID-19 patients, all belonging to the Minuangoda cluster, were identified today. According to the Government Information Department, among the infected are 24 people at quarantine centers and 91 close contacts. Meanwhile, one returnee from the United Arab Emirates, one from South Africa, and 4 seafarers have also tested positive for COVID-19. The number of infected patients from the Minuangoda cluster currently stands at 1,972. So far, a total of 5,475 COVID-19 patients have been identified across the island since the virus outbreak began. As of now, 2,067 patients are receiving treatment at hospitals for COVID-19.
By the time we found more than 1,000 in one place have got affected, and we have managed to contain. Of course, we have found 1 or 2 here and there out of Gampa district. That is because the workers or the employees of that company, Minuangoda, who had gone on leave and got connected to the society. So we will find some more in the future too. We can't predict how many people that we will find. We have a little bit of an idea as to who will get COVID next also when you do the contact tracing.
Can the newly identified cases be connected to the Minuangoda cluster?
According to the information of the history of the virus we have gathered so far, these new cases can be connected to someone from Minuangoda. Until a case which has no connection to Minuangoda is identified, we have to consider this as part of the cluster. Whether this was spread through the cluster or emerged from different places holds no impact in the process the people must follow. It is more important to be safe rather than debating on whether it is a cluster or not.
What is the condition of the journalist who tested positive for COVID-19?
The second PCR test conducted on the journalist confirmed that he was not infected by the virus. It was announced yesterday that a journalist who was present at a media briefing held at the Department of Government Information on the 13th of October was suspected to have contracted COVID-19. Further investigations are underway.
What is the situation in Colombo?
Epidemiologist of the Colombo Municipal Council, Dr. Dinuka Guruge, said that PCR tests were carried out today on the first batch of suspected COVID-19 patients found in Jintupitiya, Colombo. She said samples were taken randomly throughout the week to conduct PCR tests. The PCR tests conducted on the employees of the Colombo Municipal Council yesterday had turned out negative.
Are travel restrictions imposed in villages situated in Rambukkana?
Travel restrictions have been imposed on 5 villages in Rambukkana in the Kegol district following the discovery of COVID-19 cases.
Temporary travel restrictions were imposed in 5 villages so that we can locate close contacts. We were able to end this by last evening.
What is the situation at the Katunayaka Export Processing Zone?
According to the PCR tests carried out this afternoon, 170 workers attached to the Katunayaka Export Processing Zone have tested positive for COVID-19. Secretary of the Public Health Inspectors Association, Mahendra Balasurya, said that they are currently being directed towards hospitals.
Only 2 factories have been closed down. The number of people working in the other factories is also low. We are now receiving reports of cases from close contacts of the employees at those factories. We are facing a serious risk. There are no cases reported from the community.
What is the situation at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for Children?
A nurse at one of our wards had contracted the virus from an unknown source. We haven't yet discovered from where she contracted the virus. There is a possibility that this virus can spread randomly at various locations, so it is essential that people do not enter hospitals unnecessarily and visit patients unnecessarily. We will give these patients all that they need.
Is the Moratuwa Provincial Hospital safe?
The villagers opposed the decision to allocate the Moratuwa Provincial Hospital to treat COVID-19 patients due to inadequate safety at the hospital. The number of patients receiving treatment at the hospital is likely to rise from 41 to 80 within the course of the day.
3 police officers from the Moratuwa police have been posted here throughout the day. As we are following all protocols on disinfection, there is no risk of germs seeping out into other parts of this area. We are treating patients who have tested positive for the virus, but 99% of these patients are asymptomatic.
What is the situation in the southern province?
An individual tested positive for COVID-19 in Kitulampitiya, Galle. Director of Health Services in the Southern Province, Dr. Chandima Siritunga said the patient was an employee at the Colombo dockyard. Meanwhile, 2 people from Tissamaharama and Matara had tested positive for COVID-19. Dr. Siritunga said more than 1,500 people in the area have been directed to quarantine.
Is the methodology of imposing travel restrictions an accurate one?
Zonal lockdowns.
A zonal lockdown, a divisional lockdown and isolations are being imposed on various levels in the country. But we cannot be happy or be content that it is being done properly. To impose a restriction, they have to first consult the epidemiology unit. We saw how 2 villages in Mana were declared as isolated areas. But within 48 hours, those restrictions were lifted. Was it done adhering to the instructions of the Department of Epidemiology? It is only through the careful action you take after imposing a zonal lockdown you will be able to prevent a community spread. That will also assist us to make critical decisions with regards to the state of the country.
Conducting PCR tests within 72 hours have been made compulsory for passengers leaving the country through the airport. Issuing a notice, the Airport and Aviation Authority stated that this will be in effect from 6 p.m. tomorrow. Airport and Aviation Authority further noted that PCR tests must be conducted in hospitals that have been approved by the Ministry of Health. Meanwhile, the GMOA has raised concerns regarding the quality of some PCR tests conducted in the country.
It is not favorable that it takes 3 to 4 days for my PCR test to arrive if I give a sample. At least there should be a procedure where results come within 24 hours. If we consider yesterday and day before, about 3,000 to 4,000 samples were piled up for PCR tests. Delivery of wrong results in testing has happened every day to a certain percentage. It is hard for us to admit that this only happens in Sri Lanka. However, we are conducting this procedure while limiting the possibility of it happening as much as possible.
Now, the search operations are currently underway in search of former Minister Rishad Badiruddin. Here are some of the views that were expressed regarding the former minister going missing.
Badiruddin is not at my house, but the CID must understand that there are certain houses that are constantly visited by Badiruddin. The houses that cannot be accessed by the police and the CID don't belong to us. You know who those houses belongs to. So instead of searching locations where the CID can enter, the CID should probably search some of the houses that they cannot enter, and they will be able to find Badiruddin. They only have 149 seats in parliament and they can't pass this destructive amendment to the constitution. We see this as an attempt to capture Rishad and the people around him to support this destructive 20th amendment to the constitution. The murders that were unresolved in our country and the crimes that remained unresolved are those that were either perpetrated perpetrated by the government, or these criminals had the protection of the government. This truth is now being revealed. We see this as a similar stage play. These are not the biggest charges. They said he was involved in the April 21st attack. It's been a year since this government came into power. In the end, they are going after him for a transaction involving a bus.
රිසාඩ් බදුදීන් හඹාගෙන යනවා.
මදු මාධව අරවින්ද අපේ
We hid Madhu Madhava Aravinda for over 30 days, and until we find a petition in court and got an order preventing his arrest, the police were not able to find him. But since there were continuous allegations against Rishad, the police should have been more vigilant about him. On the release of Rishad's brother, there was more influence from the bottom than from the top. We have gotten a mandate against Rishad Badiruddin. We spoke out against Rishad Badiruddin and got 6.9 million votes. Therefore, the government must take all necessary measures against Badiruddin. If not, we will be violating the mandate given to us.
ගත යුතුයි. ඒ නැත්තම් ඒක ජනවරම අමුමුවේ උල්ලංඝනය කිරීම.
රිෂාඩ් බදුරුදීන් මම අපි දන්නේ හැටියට ඇමතිකමක් නැතුව කවදාකවත් හිටියේ නැහැ. ඉස්සරහටත් එන්නේ වෙයි.
කිසිසේත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ ගැන අපි ලබා
We have not taken any decision like that. We promised the people that we will not align ourselves with Hizbullah, Sali and Rishad. Vimal Veeravansa and myself give an oath to that effect, and that oath is valid today as well.
මත් ඒකාබද්ධ ප්‍රතිඥාවක් දුන්නේ. ඒ ප්‍රතිඥාව අදටත් ඒ විදියටම වළංගුයි.
The police must fulfill their responsibilities. If someone has influenced the police and weakened their powers, they will not be able to continue to do so for much longer. If they are lying and if they are exerting influence, they will be exposed. So we believe that it is the duty of the police to arrest him. The police must do their part and protect the trust that the people of this country has placed in Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the incumbent government.
රජය කෙරෙහි තිබුවා වූ විශ්වාසය රකින්න එක ඒක තහවුරු කරනවා. අපිට ඉතින් පිස්සුවක් නැහැ රිෂාඩ් බදුද්දීන්.
We are not mad to hide Rishad Badiruddin. Rishad has spoken with Sajid and Hakim in the past few days. He had spoken to them and gotten advice to remain hidden. You must ask them as to where he is hiding.
නෝනේ එතුමා කොයිද අංගලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා.
විශේෂයෙන් සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාසට දුරකථන
When Badiruddin called Sajid and Hakim, where was his mobile phone? This is a joke now. The teams investigating the matter are asking Sajid Premadasa what they spoke about. There are many reports that Badiruddin had arrived opposite the Supreme Court and given his lawyers advice and then left. Today Vimal Veeravansa is silent. The Defence Secretary who spoke much about Rishad Badiruddin is now silent. When the government came into power, they said he had charges of being involved in terrorist activities and not the misuse of public property.
සවාදී ක්‍රියාවන්ට සම්බන්ධ චෝදනා තියෙන බව
ආందోලනයක් නෑ එතුමාවත්.
There is no controversy here. He will be arrested. We will not intervene in those matters, but we expect the police to arrest him. When the Yahapalne government arrested us, we did not hide. We stayed at home. But about 6 police teams came to arrest me. Curfew was imposed in the Hambantota district when Namal Rajapaksa and D.V. Chanaka were arrested. Police officers do not have to do the same thing, but the law must be enforced.
නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරයි කියලා විශ්වාස කරනවා.
The fact that a prominent person like Rishad Badiruddin cannot be found is a complete farce. These are the actions of a group of officials who want to inconvenience the government. 100 MPs signed a letter and handed it over to the president as if to say, "Sir, please protect our mandate. We have no way of going back to our villages. Please stage this drama and arrest Badiruddin." Now they are scared of arresting him. They are trying to arrest him under the Money Laundering Act. We thought he would be arrested for deforestation.
ඇත්තටම මේ වෙලාවේදී අපිට කියන්න තියෙන්නේ රිෂාඩ්
All we have to say right now is, former Minister Rishad, it is not you who should be hiding. It is us. The people are asking us as to if this is how the government you asked us to vote for acts in front of Rishad Badiruddin. We have no answers to give them. We are the ones who should be hiding from the people. So you can come out of hiding. We will go hide instead.
එන්න අපි හැංගෙන්නම් කියලා තමයි අපිට කියන්න තියෙන්නේ.
SSP Nishanta D'Souza has been appointed as the new director of the Criminal Investigations Department. His predecessor, SSP ARPJ De Silva, has been transferred as the Director of the Terrorist Investigation Division. Senior Superintendent of Police TGNWD Thalduwa, who was the Director of the Terrorist Investigation Division, has been transferred as the Director of the Criminal Investigation Department. According to the police headquarters, 8 superintendents of police and 4 assistant superintendents of police have been transferred with immediate effect. Meanwhile, Acting Senior Superintendent of Police RARN Rajpaksa has been appointed as the Director of the Special Operations and Environment Division at the President's Office. Meanwhile, DIG MN Sisirakumara has been transferred as the DIG in charge of Colombo. DIG LPSP Sadun Gahavatta has been transferred as the DIG in charge of the Tourism Division. DIG DRSR Naghamulla has been transferred as the DIG in charge of Ratnapura. A total of 56 Deputy Inspector Generals of Police have been transferred. According to the police headquarters, 18 police inspectors have also been transferred.
Former President Maithripala Sirisena refuted allegations that he said he could alter the report of the Malalgoda committee, which was appointed by the former president to probe the April 21st attacks. He refuted these claims while testifying for the 4th day at the Presidential Commission probing the April 21st attacks.
The former president said he would not stoop low so as to alter a report issued by a committee appointed by him. He noted the secretary to the president at the time, Uday Seniviratne, had carried out the activity of appointing the committee. The former president noted that he is unable to provide written evidence of necessary instructions and orders he issued regarding countering extremism based on the intelligence reports provided to him, adding that he presumes the relevant documents are still stored at the presidential secretariat. The additional Solicitor General then inquired as to whether the instructions and orders given by him as the former Minister of Defence, Minister of Law and Order and Executive President had not been implemented. In reply, he noted that although such orders and directives had been provided by him, lower tier officials had not followed them. The Additional Solicitor General then queried as to whether a proper review was not done in order to ensure that the directives and orders were being followed. The former president noted in reply, quote, "I had advised them properly. The issue was officers in the lower tiers not implementing them. If they had been followed, none of this would have occurred," unquote. The commission then questioned if extremists were able to carry out such an attack since there was a lack of advice provided by the president owing to the volatile situation in the political climate at the time. Replying to the query, the former president said, quote unquote, "There was no political crisis at the time. Everything returned to normal after the verdict of the Supreme Court was delivered. Although there were political clashes, there was no issue within ministries. I do not believe that contributed to the attacks because the cabinet convened each week. There were meetings convened by the Ministry of Defence. For 4 years, the Security Council provided directives, but they were not implemented. The army possesses a large number of intelligence officers out of the entire intelligence service. Naval intelligence was strong in the north and east, but no information was provided by them. Even the killing of police officers in Batticaloa was made out to be a crime committed by the LTTE. It was only later that they discovered the weapons in possession of Zaharan's followers," unquote. The former president added, quote, "I am providing evidence to this commission for the 4th day. I am glad I was questioned regarding the speech I made in parliament following the attacks. I always acted based on my conscience. I engaged in politics because of the people and the country. I am not at fault for other authorities shirking its responsibilities. I am neither an expert in security intelligence nor defense. Those who were suitable for those positions were appointed after calling for applications. They were trained after they were recruited as well. They were given overseas training. They are bound to fulfill their duties. The issue of intelligence services not fulfilling their duties has arisen here. Why did they not operate based on the directives provided? I am amazed. The intelligence services in the north and east are solid and strong, but they had not received information. I fulfilled my responsibility as the president. However, those below me had not. I have spoken at a number of fora regarding eradicating extremism. Necessary orders and directives were provided. Certain quarters have evaded their duties," unquote. While obtaining evidence from the former president concluded today, cross-examination will commence at 4 p.m. on the 22nd of this month.
The Ministry of Justice says that clauses in the 20th Amendment to the Constitution that require a referendum to be passed will not be tabled in Parliament.
The The Ministry of Justice said that steps will be taken in this regard after the special determination of the Supreme Court is announced in Parliament. The Ministry of Justice added that the committee stage amendments to the bill had been presented to the Supreme Court and changes to them will be made with the consent of all MPs. The ministry further stated that all amendments will be done according to the decision of the Supreme Court.
Here are some of the views expressed on the political stage regarding the 20th Amendment to the Constitution.
එතකොට මෙහි මුල් පිටපත සකස් කරේ කවුද කියන කාරණාව මේ කැබිනට් එක.
So the Minister of Justice does not know who prepared the draft of this amendment while it was tabled at the cabinet meeting. This is not surprising as this draft was made by an American citizen and fashioned by an American agent. This was done to pave the way for the MCC agreement. This 20th amendment is the most revealing precursor to the fact that this government will sign the MCC agreement. So if this government is trying to curse the 19th amendment to the constitution and bring forward the 20th amendment, we would like to say that the 19th amendment is better than the 20th. If the government is planning on passing this amendment fast, then all I can say is that this government is moving faster towards their downfall. This government continues to become more and more unpopular among the people with each passing day. This is their first official step towards their downfall.
පියවර හැටියට තමයි අපි දකින්නේ නිල පියවර තමයි එය කියලා අපි දකින්නේ.
This is not justifiable. There is no connection between the 20th amendment and the MCC agreement. There will be a 2-day debate in Parliament, and in that debate we will clearly present facts on why this amendment is required. We are also hoping to draft a fully fledged constitution as soon as possible. During the debates on Wednesday and Thursday, we will clearly explain the need for this amendment until we draft this new constitution.
Sri Lanka's geopolitics. There are reports of US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo visiting Sri Lanka, but these reports are yet to be confirmed officially. Against such a backdrop, where broad discussions have taken place with regard to US agreements and foreign interference in Sri Lanka, this potential visit of the US State Secretary has garnered much attention from the general public.
US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and US Defense Secretary Mark T. Esper will visit India on the 26th and the 27th of this month for a round of discussions with the Indian Minister of Foreign Affairs S. Jaishankar and Indian Minister of Defense Ranjit Singh. Quoting the Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Relations, Admiral Jayanath Kolomage, print media reported that there is a possibility that Mike Pompeo will visit Sri Lanka for a few hours during his Indian visit. When Newsfirst inquired from the US Embassy regarding this potential visit of the US State Secretary to Sri Lanka, the embassy responded saying that nothing has been confirmed officially as of yet.
Why is Mike Pompeo coming to Sri Lanka? I urge the present leaders of this country to reveal accurate information regarding this to the people. What agreement are they going to sign? Why are they giving us $500 million US? They have announced that they will give 500 million and 20 million will be given to combat COVID-19. However, 480 million will be given for something else. We question the government as to why they are accepting this money. What is the need for the US to aid Sri Lanka like this so suddenly? We warned the public. We told the public clearly in the recently concluded elections that the current leaders are sacrificing Sri Lanka in the power struggle between the United States of America, India and China. That is what is being implemented right before us. They are now attempting to sign the MCC compact by putting it in a different envelope.
Pakistan High Commissioner retired Major General Mohammad Saad Khattak has said that there is a possibility of starting partnerships between Sri Lanka and Pakistan in the industries of textile, cement, sugar and medicine, since Pakistani investors are eager to invest in these fields. These views were expressed during a meeting between Minister of Industries and the Pakistan High Commissioner at the Ministry of Industries.
Views regarding the institutional and legal barriers to investing in Sri Lanka were discussed at the meeting. Minister Vimal Veeravangsha has stated that discussions with the cabinet will be held to establish a Sri Lanka-Pakistan bilateral committee consisting of high-level state officers to overcome such barriers. Pakistan High Commissioner to Sri Lanka has stated that while Sri Lanka and Pakistan can have a trade relationship with each other worth $1 billion, the two countries are exchanging goods worth only $450 to $500 million. He added that this figure could be increased further while benefiting both countries.
This is ours. Sri Lanka's exclusive economic zone. $517,000 square kilometers of beautiful open ocean. Our greatest resource. 8 times our landmass. This is the Sea of Sri Lanka.
Welcome back to the news. Notices were issued today on 3 people to appear before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing political victimization. They were noticed to appear before the Commission on the 20th of this month. They are former Minister Partli Champika Ranawaka and former Inspector Generals of Police NKA Lanka and Pujith Jayasundara. The notices were issued based on a complaint lodged by Minister Uday Gammanpilla at the Commission. In more local news, the Chief of the Commando Force said India's Federal Counter-Terrorist Force, or NSG, has trained a select group of personnel to protect Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa.
In his address on the occasion of the force's 36th Raising Day, NSG Director General S.S. Deswal made the following views.
The NSG Close Protection Force trained 21 personnel of Sri Lanka's Prime Minister Security Division in close protection skills. The Honourable Prime Minister of Sri Lanka wrote to the Honourable Indian Prime Minister and praised the training.
When inquired, Indian High Commission in Sri Lanka said that 21 PMSD officials were given extensive and exhaustive training in combat fitness and close protection, proximate security during the 2-week-long course in March this year. The National Security Guard was raised as a federal contingency force in 1984 to undertake specialist counter-terrorist, counter-hijack and hostage rescue operations.
We have received reports of massive environmental destruction taking place in the Muthukandiya reservoir in Munaragala.
Muthukandiya Reservoir, the largest reservoir in the Siambalandur Divisional Secretariat in the Munaragala district, provides water to 19 Grama Seva divisions. The reservoir provides water for more than 2,000 acres of farmland. According to the residents of the area, an unidentified group of people have been using lands belonging to the Department of Preservation for farming purposes. They also pointed out that illegal plantation in the catchment area is causing destruction. Meanwhile, revelations have been made regarding a sand racket occurring in the vicinity of the Muthukandiya reservoir for over 2 years. The residents of the area said that this racket has been taking place while extracting sludge in the reservoir.
An unidentified group of people had set fire to a bird sanctuary in Batiklo yesterday.
The bird sanctuary not far from Pillaradi River was home to thousands of birds. The fire brigade and residents in the area put in great effort to douse the fire. Following the fire in the bird sanctuary, an injured crane had flown 6 kilometers to find shelter at our Batiklo correspondent Nalla Thambi Nithyanandan's house. Our correspondent had released the crane back to the bird sanctuary after treating its injuries.
In more news, reports of environmental destruction taking place right here in Sri Lanka. People in Kenya Trincomalee claim that the mangroves and swamps in their areas are being destroyed. Our regional correspondent looked into this matter.
Area residents allege that these mangroves located adjacent to the Kurichakene Kenya Divisional Secretariat and the Pradesh Sabha are being destroyed. They charge that these mangroves are being filled partitioned and then sold off. There is no one intervening to stop the destruction.
We have been here for a long time. Since then, this was a ground. This is where we played. Recently a person came here and surrounded the plot of land with a fence and told us that he had purchased the land and that now it belongs to him. He has claimed these lands fraudulently and now is selling these plots of land for 2.5 million rupees. All of these areas get flooded. There is nowhere for the water to go. Water even goes into our houses.
This matter was discussed at the District Development Committee meeting of the Trincomalee district as well.
If people who are rich have done this and partitioned these plots of land, and if action is filed against them in court, they can make bail and go free. I would like to request you not to do this to the poor people in the area. After I came, all the officials at the Pradesh Sabha were summoned and I informed them of all of this, but there was no success. Then we conducted a beach cleanup with the mayor, but nothing happened. After that we informed the Director General about it and he told us to take a proper decision. We are frustrated about the speech made by the mayor. We have never acted against these innocent people. Look into this, and if there has been an illegal acquisition of land, you can file legal action.
Our correspondent inquired on the matter from the Divisional Secretary of Kenya.
Behind this secretariat there was a mangrove. This has been filled with sand. About 50 acres of land has been claimed.
We will look into whether this land is private or public. We have informed the Pradesh Sabha if this is a private land, they have to get approval from the Pradesh Sabha to do anything on the plot of land. They cannot do anything without the approval of the Pradesh Sabha. So it is the chairman of the Pradesh Sabha that has to be responsible, as it is a private land. If this land is identified as a land that belongs to the state, and if someone is attempting to lay claim to the land illegally, we will take steps against it.
The Divisional Secretary also said this at a separate occasion.
Sometimes it could have been done before I came here. I can tell you what happened only after I go through the files. There are lands that belong to the government. If it is a plot of land that is used as a playground, it is land owned by the government.
The people here are of the opinion that those who destroy and loot these lands must be brought to justice without delay.
Various views have been expressed on the making of 800, the real-life story of Sri Lankan cricketing legend Muthaiya Muralidharan, regarded by many as the best bowler to have ever played the game. A group of South Indian filmmakers have voiced their opposition against the film, and Muthaiya Muralidharan himself has responded to it in a statement.
The lead role of the film will be played by South Indian superstar Vijay Sethupathi. A group of South Indian filmmakers have alleged that Sethupathi should retire from acting. In a statement, the same group of South Indian filmmakers have said that Muthaiya Muralidharan has aided Sri Lankan politicians and has no affection towards Tamils. Meanwhile, Muralidharan has issued a statement with the hope of putting an end to the current controversial situation. In his statement, he has said that he has been through many obstacles to get where he is now, and he has surpassed many obstacles in his private life as well as in his career. Adding further, he has said that he was quite reluctant to the proposal of the production of the movie and that all his world records in cricket belong to many people. His statement further notes that he said yes to the film only if the film gives equal importance to his parents, his teachers, coaches and his fellow teammates who helped him in his career. According to his statement, Muralidharan says that their parents started off as tea estate workers and it was the Indian migrants who worked at tea estates who were impacted the most in the 30-year-old war. Muthaiya Muralidharan said that he and his family were extremely helpless and battered from the attacks took place against the Tamils in the 70s and the time of the Black July, and from the bomb attacks that took place afterwards. Muralidharan's statement further adds that his father sustained injuries from attackers when he was 7 years old, several of his relatives were murdered, and there were countless number of times where they had to leave their home due to unemployment. Citing all these incidents, Murali says that he perfectly knows the pain and sorrow of war. Murali points out that his life revolved around the 30-year-old war in Sri Lanka, and him being selected to the national cricket team amidst those troubling times is depicted through this latest Indian film titled 800.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. To follow details of these stories and more, you can log on to our award-winning website www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Charlene Benedict for the News First team with our interpreter for tonight, Taraka Gabriel. Good night and God bless.